Imagine you're walking through a busy public place. It's loud, crowded, people everywhere. Across the way, you see a friend. You wave, you call their name, and they walk straight past you. In less than a second, your brain starts building a story. They ignored me. They must be annoyed with me. Maybe I've done something wrong. And suddenly, you feel hurt, embarrassed, and angry. But did your friend walking past you create that feeling? Or did it come from the story your mind created? This is one of the core ideas behind cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Emotional distress doesn't just come from what happens to us. It comes from how we interpret what happens to us. And sometimes the mind gets that interpretation wrong. Not because it's faulty, but because your brain is trying to predict danger, avoid rejection, and make sense of uncertainty. It fills in the blanks, and when it fills them in negatively, thoughts can start to feel like facts. In CBT, these thinking traps are called cognitive distortions, and there's a simple 3-step technique for working with them. Identify, challenge, replace. This isn't about forcing yourself to think positively, it's about learning to think more accurately. Step 1 is identify. Before you can change a thought, you have to notice it. And this is harder than it sounds, because most of the time, we don't experience thoughts as thoughts. We experience them as reality. You don't think, I'm having the thought that my friend ignored me. You just think they ignored me. So use emotion as an alarm bell. When you suddenly feel anxious, ashamed, angry, or low, pause and ask, what just went through my mind? What story am I telling myself? What am I assuming this means? Before a job interview, the thought might be, I'm gonna mess this up. After a message goes unanswered, it might be, they're annoyed with me. That's the thought to catch. Not because it's definitely wrong, but because it's not automatically true. Some common patterns of cognitive distortion include catastrophizing, where your mind jumps to the worst case scenario. All or nothing thinking, where one mistake becomes total failure. Emotional reasoning, where you treat a feeling as proof. And mind reading, where you assume you know what someone else is thinking. Once you name the pattern, the thought starts to lose power, because now you're not inside it, you're observing it. Step 2 is challenge. This is where you stop treating the thought like a fact and start treating it like a hypothesis. A thought is not evidence, it's something your mind produced. Some thoughts are accurate, some are distorted, and are a result of your brain trying to protect you from uncertainty. So put the thought on trial. Ask, what is the evidence for this? What is the evidence against it? Is there another explanation? Am I confusing a feeling with a fact? What would I say to a loved one who had this thought? The aim is not to prove the thought wrong. The aim is to test it fairly, because the worst explanation is not the only explanation. That's what challenging does. It creates space between the thought and your reaction. Step 3 is replace. Once you've challenged the thought, replace it with something more accurate. Not fake positive, accurate. Instead of, I'm going to fail this interview, you might say, I feel anxious because this matters to me, but I've prepared and I don't know how it will go yet. Instead of, they ignored me, you might say, they walked past me. They might not have seen or heard me because it was busy and loud. The aim is not to delete negative thoughts forever. The aim is to stop giving every negative thought authority over your emotions and behavior. Because when you believe the first thought your mind gives you, you can end up reacting to something that might not even be true. So remember, identify, challenge, replace. By doing so, you're responding to uncertainty with a more balanced mind. Catch the thought, question the thought, replace the thought. Because your thoughts can be useful, but they are not always true. And learning the difference is one of the most powerful psychological skills you can build.